Thank you very much. Believe it or not, I am a prospector. I'm actually a second-generation prospector, so I'm a little bit philosophical, perhaps even whimsical, and I really appreciate. Thank you to the Casey Group for giving me this opportunity. I hope it'll be a little bit practical as well. So, what I really want to convey to you is that exploration is a place you can make a lot of money. Discovery of something new, whether it's in mining or any other pursuit, is where money is made. And of course, some of the things we're looking for in exploration are money, gold and silver, etc. So it's not. I'm not going to take pot shots at mining, but I think I'm going to try to convince you that exploration is where it's at for big gains. This is something I'm going to be trying through this through these series of slides, hopefully colorful, and will keep you going along with me to contest. I'm not a Malthusian. I think that peak oil, peak copper, peak gold, all these kinds of things are political, and I'll try to explain that to you here. I don't agree with this at all. I think that exploration has been, despite the fact there's a lot of companies out there to wade through for you as the investor, there are a lot of things to find, and exploration, there's been under-investment in research in the mining sector, meaning exploration. This is the main thing I want to, through this series of slides, talk about. This is something you'll see. This here marks a huge change in the entire mining sector, that change in that graph. Before that, mining used to have to pay a higher dividend than any other sector because it's fraught with risk. Mines are out in places where there's landslides and revolutions, and who knows what's under the ground, et cetera, things that we know about. So mining used to, before this point in the curve, pay high dividends. After this point, dividends are virtually unheard of in mining. The return on invested capital in mining has gone down dramatically, and this reflects a large amount of money out there. Mining's at the very extreme end of the capital curve. You're looking for something that then you mine and then you make into something that might be a car way down the road. So it's highly capital intensive, and if there's a lot of cheap money running around the world, well, guess what? A lot of projects are engaged in that might not otherwise be. And so that's kind of the Austrian business model, which fits a little bit with where we are today. In the Casey booth, looking at it a little more closely, you can see this dramatic curve. This marks a change in the whole attitude, the philosophy of mining. And we were talking about Malthus and the idea that we're going to run out of things. The Club of Rome and that book that they wrote was about in here, and this curve is ever increasing, and I believe it will continue to increase. And I would like to make that Julian Simon bet right today. This is a group from Yale University. They're trying to suggest that this is narrowing. We're not finding as much as we used to, and mining is increasing, and we're going to run out, and we're all going to die. But these Yale guys aren't mathematicians, or they want to deceive you. This is a logarithmic scale. And look at what we produced in 1950, somewhere that's probably around, 50,000, that number. Look at what we're producing today. Order of magnitude. I mean, we're just exploding with what we're finding or producing. The largest, highest grade deposits in almost every category are being found. Look at what tritium is found. Look at some of the copper porphyries in the world. This isn't true. To get into how you make money in mining, this is a little junior company going along. It makes a big discovery. This is sort of, we've made a big discovery. Let's develop it in a mine. There's a huge permitting period, and there's a little bit of boredom. And then finally you say, wow, it is a mine and we're making money. These are, generally speaking, the two curves at which you make money, and I'm going to argue that this is the best place to make the money, and the highest increase proportionally. I like to think of, everyone knows the odds of exploration are long, but odds aren't just the rate of success. They're also the amount of capital that you need to deploy. So think about it this way: if you're spending a couple $1 million and your odds are 1 in 1,000 of having some success of finding a porphyry, this is just an idea. Maybe these numbers are wrong, but you multiply those two things together, capital and odds, and you come up with this. if your odds in 1 in 5 of having a successful copper porphyry in production, you got to spend $1 billion. I would argue your odds, your risk is a lot greater. Just to run you through the history of things to try to back up what I'm saying. Think about this: before the New World was discovered by Europeans, in a European sense of discovery, 2% of the world's gold was mined. Up until the Industrial Revolution, about 8% of the world's gold was mined. Then all these things were found, these great big placer deposits. They were simply sticking out of the ground. People went and found new rivers full of gold. They went all around the world. It wasn't high technology. It wasn't technology was developed, of course. But just to get on that ancient, the Romans, they had slave labor and pretty low capital, and their empire ran out when they ran out of that slave labor, and they weren't exploring either. It was through conquest. So you look at the 20th century, all this technology came about 50% of the world's gold was produced after 1980. That's a remarkable statistic. All these things came about in geology. Our geology is going ahead in leaps and bounds, and we're understanding how these things are formed and where they come from. But my argument is that exploration decreased. There's Barrick, I think, is 38 different gold mining companies that have combined. Companies grow. Growth is through mergers and acquisitions, and if you can grow a company and get share appreciation for it through those means, then why would you spend your money on exploration? And that's generally what's happened. And after the Cold War, a significant event, there was a huge number of deposits that were literally sitting on a shelf in formerly behind the Iron Curtain type countries, and those ranged all over the world. These things were sitting there, and they were available for people to go and explore, and that further decreased the need for exploration. So that's where we're sitting right now, and I argue that we're resting on these kinds of laurels. Just to look at gold in a little bit more detail, you can see that there's also technology has come around. This here had a dramatic effect. This is gold production. You can see that something happened here. This is the means to mine low-grade oxidized deposits that were formerly uneconomic. Copper shows similar trends. You look at there was a whole new type of deposit understood, and in a short period of time, the world's copper inventory increased tenfold as we understood this geology. As I said before, some of the largest and higher-grade deposits of this category have been found in the last 10 years. So this new deposit type now produces 60% of the world's copper, and large amounts. The world's largest gold mine is often a porphyry deposit. Looking at before, when that curve was flat, the monetary growth curve, this is kind of the odds system. This is Cominco, a study they did over a long period of time. They're a precursor to Cominco, and these are the kind of odds that you could count on. This is in a time where you had to pay big dividends. Discovery trends in gold, looking beyond that, you can see that this is the size of gold deposit. You can see that there's a downward curve here, and I would argue that's because we've had a huge amount of brownfields exploration working around old mine sites. This is showing kind of a flatlining curve. We're converting a lot of resources that were previously known, but there's not a lot of discoveries, and this shows it a bit more clearly. So you see a downward curve in things that are in green, which are exploration. So it would appear that the Malthusians have a point here, particularly when you look at this, that the grade is declining in the average gold mined in the world. But again, I would argue that this is a little bit due to the expenditures. You can see that small exploration groups have gone up to 71% of the world's exploration expenditures in gold, and that's a figure that I think will be climbing. Copper shows a very similar thing. There's 100 deposits found, but 4 of them account for 74% of the returns. Again, a lot of brownfields exploration, some fantastic discoveries, and that's but quality, I think, by and large, is decreasing. So my argument here is that there's been a lack of investment by the big companies have become like drug companies. They're focused on acquisitions, and they're less and less focused on their own research and development. That's left to this large group of junior explorers out there. They're doing very well. As I say, some of the biggest deposits have been found in the last little while. Exploration is an expense on the books, and you acquire something, it gets on the right side of the balance sheet. What you see is that growth is the focus, and this large decrease in return on invested capital. Some people estimate on average it's under 5%, which is less than inflation. So mining really hasn't been a good bet. But we're running out of these deposits, not because the world is running out of them. You look out there at Pritium, and what they found is absolutely staggering, the resource out there. It's not because there's a dearth of these things, it's because we've been focused elsewhere. Let's look at the risks that, as you as an investor and as a prospector, we share these things together. This is the biggest risk. You need to work in a place where you're likely to be able to develop something, where a mining company who's maybe going to buy your discovery is going to come in and feel comfortable. These risks are rising and falling all over the world. 20 years ago, I think not a lot of people would go to Colombia, and now it's thought of as a great place to be. Infrastructure, look for something where there's good infrastructure if you can. There's lots of places, lots of new discoveries in areas of outstanding infrastructure. We talked about these odds. Some people argue it's up to 1 in 5,000 properties that are drilled. That's just the reality of mining and exploration. We're dealing with concentrations of minerals. Keep in mind, just to address the Malthusian question, there's gold in the oceans, and in post-World War I, there was a German chemist who said we can pay Germany's reparation debts by recovering gold from the ocean. So it wouldn't be good for the gold price. The fact is, there's an infinite supply of everything out there. What we're looking for when we're looking for mineral deposits is concentrations of these metals. Obviously, in mining, you have to have something that you can economically mine, meaning that the material, there's these concentrations. What is their geometry? Does it take moving a lot of material that doesn't have anything in it to get it out? And one of the big things that you need to address very early on is your material recoverable? In prospecting, those are the things you want to look at when you're evaluating a discovery in a company. In prospecting, what we try to do in our company is we try to go to an area where there is outstanding and permissive geology to make a big discovery, and we get out there and we cover a lot of ground. We get in helicopters, we get in pickup trucks, we get on donkeys, and we go all over the hills, and you need to do that. But go where you don't have to go right next to a mine, but go where permissive geology extends from deposits. It's a great place to start. Location, but it doesn't have to be where there are old mines. There are great geological knowledge is grown so much that we're finding areas that are permissive that never were thought of permissive. If you think about the diamond discoveries in the Northwest Territories, this is an area that was not known to have the potential to host diamonds, and somebody recognized that potential with some good science, went up in there and found what are the largest highest grade diamond deposits in the world. Look for something that's big. Evaluate your junior company. Are these people looking for a deposit type for something that's large? Do they know what they're dealing with? Are they talking about good copper grades, but they're wispy things that have no chance? Are they part of a larger deposit type? Look for high grades. This is the Perina deposit. This hill averaged over 5 grams. It was very high grade and made a lot of money for Barrick, with I think almost a very low stripping ratio. So it speaks to the kind of high-grade deposits that are out there yet to find. Look for big features. This is a little bit of high technology. In this case, we're looking at some satellite imagery that aids us in evaluating big features. Go out there and look for the thing you hope to find, gold. Look for it in the streams. look for it in the soils. Why not look for the actual thing that you want to find? And this is proven to be probably the most effective methodology. Use science. This is New Zealand. We have wells that are drilled down to 3 kilometers. The fluid is brought up to surface, and what they do is they flash this fluid, and they turn the steam use the steam to turn a turbine. So now you got fluid from 3 kilometers down that's flashing at surface. For 30 years this went on before a geologist recognized every time they opened up the wellhead and had this big explosion of depressurization that a coffee cup of black syrup came out, which averaged 50% gold. And then people started to go down there to study, well, these are actively forming gold deposits. So this came about in the 80s, and I went down there to study this stuff because it had direct relevance to finding deposits. It's completely changed the geology of this. We use these models, this boiling material and steaming ground here. This is a scale in a pipe, and this is an epithermal vein. You can see some very similar textures. This is our Ixtaka discovery, and this is running multi-ounce gold and several thousand grams silver. Very similar look, same geology, but we didn't see it at surface. We recognized that steaming and boiling stuff, it was no longer steaming and boiling, but we recognized the products of it, and that's why we drilled some holes to test for that theory, and we got very lucky. But you got to drill the holes. And don't be too model-driven, even though these models are very useful. These guys had a completely different model. They went way out in the desert, and they made one of the most remarkable discoveries of all time, perhaps. This is consistently one of the largest producers of uranium, gold, and copper in any one year. And they drilled a great big hole in the middle of nowhere, testing some odd model, and they came up with a whole, what is described now as a completely new deposit type that was unknown geologically. And now people have run around the world and found all sorts of other deposits that fit this criteria. So that's why I say the Malthusian concept is, to me, doesn't fit. The only way you find things is drilling. Get your junior to drill, and don't worry if they miss off the bat. You need a little bit of luck to have success, but you're not going to have it unless you're out there drilling. Juniors, and how we've got as a company that is trying to employ science, trying to go out there and sample streams in geological areas that are permissive but underexplored, and trying to make these new discoveries, is that it can be very difficult to. There's no, the odds are long. I've told you about that risk factor and explaining to you that despite the long odds, I think that, in fact, a risk factor analysis would suggest that if people are doing the right things, it's the right place to put your money as opposed to perhaps developing a mine, whereas the exploration odds have been taken out of it. But it's a very difficult thing to try to convey to people, hey, we have nothing, but we're going to find something. You as the investor need to recognize when there's good people doing scientifically valid things. They've got to go out. These great discoveries took cojones. They took getting out there and drilling holes. And juniors, how they get through that risk is they often form partnerships. That means they're diluting their interest in the property, but they're not diluting their shareholders. And it's not necessarily, it's born of necessity. And I can certainly say that's our case. We didn't want to dilute our shareholders. We didn't want to dilute ourselves. So what we did is we went out and we got other people to try to recognize our ideas, help us put up the money to test these things. That's a very valid model. Look for people who spread the risk. But don't get too excited about the exploration risk. The key to being a junior explorer is never giving up. And you as shareholders got to manage your risk. You got to manage these brutal markets like we've had for this entire sector. But these are the Casey Group is one of the outstanding groups of people to inform you that crisis and opportunity are the same thing. And there are tremendous opportunities. There's a lot of great groups out there. The under expenditure in research and development, that is exploration, in our entire sector is opportunity. There are a huge amount of metal requirements for the world that aren't going to change. And there's 2,000 juniors that, by and large, you saw in gold, they're supplying 71% of the exploration capital. This group of 2,000 people, roughly, are the people who are going to find the deposits of the future. And guess what? They're doing it. There's been a number of outstanding discoveries. The opportunity for dramatic capital gain is out there. Timing is everything for the investor, but these are the attributes that are going to bring you wealth as an investor and as a prospector.